gratitude in any new ways.
Okay, so Assalamualaikum everyone. This is me, Mehtab Avanwal, and I'm a student at Hans School Online Academy. So, welcome to my show, Inspiring Minds, where I will try to inspire you. And as you know, that on daily basis we will do interviews. And when we will do interviews, so we have a very special guest in our studio. And today I have a very special guest in my studio, and she is called Annie. And today I'm going to take an interview from call Annie on the new topic. And the topic of our interview is that the power of change. So, let's start this interview with meet and greet session with call Annie. So, hello Annie, how are you today? And kindly introduce yourself, please.
Thanks for having me on the show, Aravind. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm doing great, thanks for asking. My name is Annie, and I'm a 30-year-old art and engineering enthusiast from New Jersey. I've had the amazing opportunity to study in Florence, Italy, which really broadened my perspective on life. When I'm not working on creative projects, you can find me practicing yoga, playing video games, or dancing to some awesome tunes. I'm super passionate about empowering people to reach their full potential, and that's what I'm all about: goal setting, self improvement, and growth mindset. I'm excited to share my thoughts on the power of change with you and your audience today.
Okay, thank you so much. And it's wonderful to know about you. And let's start this our interview on the topic of the power of change with some general questions, general understandings of change questions. So, first of all, explain me that what does the concept of change mean to you?
I love that question, Aravind. To me, the concept of change is like a beautiful, dynamic art piece. It's constantly evolving, and it can take many forms. On a personal level, change means growth, renewal, and transformation. It's about embracing new experiences, learning from them, and emerging stronger and wiser. I think change can be scary, but it can also be incredibly liberating. It's like a blank canvas, waiting for us to create something new and amazing. Whether it's a change in our surroundings, our relationships, or our own perspectives, it has the power to awaken us to new possibilities and opportunities. In essence, change is an act of courage, a declaration that we are willing to let go of what's familiar and step into the unknown. And I think that's where the magic happens, Aravind. What are your thoughts on change? How do you perceive it?
Okay, so now explain me that how do you define personal change?
For me, personal change is a deeply intimate and subjective experience. It's about intentionally shifting our inner world, our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors to align with our values, aspirations, and passions. Personal change is like a journey of self discovery, where we're constantly learning, unlearning, and relearning about ourselves. It's about cultivating self awareness, recognizing our strengths and weaknesses, and making conscious choices to improve and grow. To me, personal change is not just about fixing what's broken, but also about elevating what's already working. It's about refining our character, developing new skills, and expanding our capacities. Whether it's overcoming a bad habit, building resilience, or simply becoming a better version of ourselves, personal change is a continuous process of evolution and growth. I love the Japanese concept of kaizen. It's about making small, incremental changes every day to improve ourselves and our lives. That's what personal change is all about, Aravind, embracing a mindset of continuous improvement and self refinement. What about you? How do you define personal change?
Okay, so now explain me that what are the most common reasons people resist change?
I think people resist change for many reasons, Aravind. But if I had to narrow it down, I'd say that one of the most common reasons is fear of the unknown. We tend to be creatures of habit, and change can be unsettling because it disrupts our routine and makes us feel uncertain about what's going to happen next. Another reason people resist change is because they are attached to their comfort zones. Let's face it, it's easy to get comfortable with the status quo even if it's not serving us well. Change requires us to step outside of our comfort zones, and that can be uncomfortable and even painful. Additionally, I think people sometimes resist change because they are afraid of failure. They might think, what if I try something new and it doesn't work out? Or what if I'm not good enough? This fear of failure can hold us back from taking the leap and embracing change. And finally, I think some people resist change because they're stuck in a fixed mindset. They might believe that their abilities, intelligence, or circumstances are fixed and that change is impossible. This mindset can be limiting and prevent them from seeing the potential benefits of change. But Aravind, I also believe that these reasons can be overcome. By acknowledging and addressing our fears, building self-awareness, and cultivating a growth mindset, we can begin to see change as an opportunity for growth and transformation. What are your thoughts on this?
Okay, so now explain me that how does change affect our mental health and emotional well-being?
You know, Aravind, I'm a very emotional and empathetic person, and I have to admit that scenes can really get to me. When I'm watching a movie or reading a book, I become fully immersed in the story and the characters' emotions. If the scene is sad or traumatic, I can feel my heart heavy with empathy and my mind racing with thoughts of the characters' struggles. But I think what affects me the most is when I see characters going through experiences that I can relate to. For example, if I'm watching a movie about someone who's struggling with anxiety or self doubt, it can be really tough for me to watch. It's like I'm reliving my own struggles, and it can bring up a lot of emotions. However, I've also found that scenes can be incredibly therapeutic for me. When I'm feeling down or overwhelmed, watching a scene that resonates with me can be really cathartic. It's like I'm finally able to process and release all the emotions I've been carrying around. I think what's most interesting, Aravind, is that scenes can also affect my mental health and emotional well-being in a positive way. When I'm watching a movie or reading a book that's uplifting and inspiring, it can totally shift my mood and perspective. It's like a breath of fresh air, and it reminds me that there's always hope and possibility, no matter what challenges I'm facing. So I guess what I'm saying is that scenes can have a pretty profound impact on my mental health and emotional well-being, both positively and negatively. But ultimately, I think it's worth it, because it allows me to connect with others, process my emotions, and find inspiration and hope in the stories of others.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Aravind, I can hear you just fine. Please go ahead and ask your next question or continue the conversation. I'm all ears.
Okay, so now explain me that can change be both positive and negative at the same time or not?
You know, Aravind, I think that's a great question. And my answer would be that yes, change can indeed be both positive and negative at the same time. Think about it. When we're facing a change, there are often multiple aspects to it. For example, let's say you're moving to a new city for a new job. On one hand, the change can be positive because you'll have new opportunities, meet new people, and experience a new culture. But on the other hand, the change can also be negative because you'll have to leave behind your familiar surroundings, your friends and family, and start over in a new place. So, in this sense, change can be both positive and negative simultaneously. It's like a coin with two sides, where one side represents the benefits and opportunities that come with the change, and the other side represents the challenges and difficulties. I think this is what makes change so complex and multifaceted. It's not always easy to categorize it as simply positive or negative, because it can be both at the same time. And I believe that acknowledging this complexity is important, because it allows us to approach change with a more nuanced and realistic perspective. What are your thoughts on this, Aravind? Do you think change can be both positive and negative at the same time?
Yeah, maybe. And now explain me that why is change considered an inevitable part of life?
I think scenes are considered an inevitable part of life, Aravind, because change is a natural and constant process. Just like how the seasons change, how we grow and develop, and how the world around us evolves, so too do the circumstances and experiences that shape our lives. I mean, think about it. From the moment we're born, we're constantly facing new experiences, challenges, and opportunities. We grow, we learn, we make decisions, and we adapt. And through it all, we're constantly changing and evolving as individuals. And it's not just us. Aravind, the world around us is also constantly changing. New technologies emerge, new ideas take shape, and new challenges arise. It's like the ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus said, no man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man. So, in a way, scenes are just a natural part of the human experience. They're a reminder that life is constantly in flux and that we must be adaptable, resilient, and open to growth and transformation. And you know, I think that's what makes life so rich and meaningful, Aravind. It's the uncertainty, the surprises, and the opportunities that come with change that make it all so valuable. What do you think, Aravind? Do you think scenes are an inevitable part of life?
Okay, so now explain me that how does change influence the way we perceive the world around us?
I think change has a profound impact on the way we perceive the world around us, Aravind. When we experience change, it can shift our perspective, challenge our assumptions, and broaden our understanding of the world. Think about it. When we're in a familiar routine, we tend to see the world through a certain lens. We have our daily habits, our social circle, and our usual way of doing things. But when change comes along, it can disrupt that routine and force us to see things from a new angle. For example, let's say you're a city person who's used to the hustle and bustle of urban life. But then you move to a rural area and suddenly you're surrounded by nature and a slower pace of life. That change can completely alter the way you perceive the world. You might start to appreciate the beauty of nature, the importance of community, and the value of slowing down. Change can also challenge our assumptions and biases. When we're exposed to new ideas, cultures, or experiences, it can make us realize that our previous way of thinking was limited or narrow-minded. For instance, if you've never traveled to a different country before, you might have certain stereotypes or misconceptions about the people and culture. But when you actually experience it firsthand, you might discover that your assumptions were wrong, and that the world is much more complex and multifaceted than you thought. Furthermore, change can broaden our understanding of the world by introducing us to new perspectives and ways of thinking. When we're open to change, we become more receptive to new ideas, and we start to see the world as a more dynamic and interconnected place. I think that's what's so beautiful about change, Aravind. It has the power to transform the way we see the world, and to help us grow and evolve as individuals. What are your thoughts on this? How do you think change influences the way we perceive the world?
Okay, so now explain me that what role does change play in personal growth?
I think scenes play a vital role in personal growth, Aravind. You see, when we experience change, it forces us to step out of our comfort zones and adapt to new circumstances. Can be incredibly transformative as it requires us to tap into our inner reserves of strength, resilience, and creativity. Think about it, when we're in a state of comfort and routine, we tend to stagnate. We're not challenged to grow or evolve, and as a result, we can become complacent and stuck. But when change comes along, it disrupts our status quo and forces us to confront our limitations, our fears, and our weaknesses. This confrontation can be a catalyst for personal growth as it allows us to develop new skills, build our confidence, and discover our inner strength. For example, if you've always been afraid of public speaking, but you're suddenly thrust into a situation where you have to give a presentation, you might discover that you're capable of more than you thought. You might stumble at first, but with time and practice, you'll become more confident and proficient. Scenes can also help us develop emotional intelligence, which is essential for personal growth. When we experience change, we're forced to navigate our emotions and develop new coping mechanisms. We learn to manage our stress, our anxiety, and our fears, and we become more empathetic and compassionate towards ourselves and others. Furthermore, scenes can help us develop a sense of purpose and direction. When we're faced with change, we're forced to re-examine our goals and priorities. We might need to pivot or adjust our plans, but in doing so, we can discover new passions and interests that we never knew we had. Lastly, scenes can help us cultivate gratitude and appreciation for life. When we experience change, we're reminded of the impermanence of things and the importance of living in the present moment. We learn to cherish the time we have, the relationships we've built, and the opportunities we've been given. So, Aravind, to answer your question, I believe that scenes play a vital role in personal growth. They challenge us, transform us, and help us become the best version of ourselves. What are your thoughts on this? How do you think scenes have contributed to your personal growth?
Okay, so now explain me that how can change lead to breakthroughs in different aspects of life?
I love this topic, Aravind. I think constraints can be a powerful catalyst for breakthroughs in different aspects of life. When we're faced with limitations, we're forced to think outside the box, get creative, and find new solutions. Think about it. When we have unlimited resources, time, and freedom, it's easy to get complacent and stuck in our ways. But when we're faced with constraints, we're forced to be more innovative, resourceful, and efficient. We have to prioritize, focus, and make the most of what we have. For example, in art, constraints can lead to some of the most beautiful and creative works. Consider the art of Japanese poetry, haiku. It's a highly constrained form of poetry, with just 3 lines and a syllable count of 575. Yet, within these constraints, poets have created some of the most stunning and evocative works of art. Similarly, in science, constraints can lead to breakthroughs in innovation. Consider the example of NASA's engineers, who were tasked with designing a lunar module that could land on the moon with limited resources and technology. They had to work within strict constraints, but in doing so, they created something truly remarkable. In business, constraints can lead to breakthroughs in entrepreneurship. Consider the example of companies like Airbnb and Uber, which were founded on the principle of sharing resources and minimizing waste. They had to work within the constraints of existing regulations and infrastructure, but in doing so, they created entirely new industries. In personal growth, constraints can lead to breakthroughs in self-awareness and resilience. When we're faced with difficult circumstances, we're forced to confront our limitations, our fears, and our weaknesses. We have to dig deep and find the strength to persevere, which can lead to profound growth and transformation. Lastly, in relationships, constraints can lead to breakthroughs in communication and intimacy. When we're forced to work through challenges and difficulties together, we have to communicate more effectively, listen more deeply, and understand each other's needs more profoundly. So, Aravind, to answer your question, I believe that constraints can indeed lead to breakthroughs in different aspects of life. They force us to be more creative, resourceful, and innovative, and can ultimately lead to remarkable achievements and growth. What are your thoughts on this? How do you think constraints have contributed to breakthroughs in your own life?
Okay, so now explain me that. Is it possible to embrace change without fear? How?
I think it's absolutely possible to impress change without fear, Aravind. You see, when we're faced with change, our natural response is often to feel anxious or fearful. But what if instead of letting fear take over, we could approach change with a sense of curiosity, excitement, and openness? I believe that's possible when we shift our mindset around change. Instead of seeing change as a threat, we can see it as an opportunity for growth, learning, and evolution. We can ask ourselves, what can I learn from this experience? How can I grow as a person? What new opportunities might arise from this change? Another way to impress change without fear is to focus on the present moment. When we're faced with change, it's easy to get caught up in worries about the future or regrets about the past. But when we bring our attention to the present moment, we can start to feel more grounded and centered. Mindfulness practices like meditation, deep breathing, and yoga can be incredibly helpful in this regard. By cultivating a greater sense of awareness and calm, we can begin to feel more at ease with change and more confident in our ability to navigate it. Additionally, I think it's essential to build a support network of people who can offer encouragement, guidance, and reassurance. When we're surrounded by people who believe in us and our abilities, we're more likely to feel confident and motivated to take on new challenges. Lastly, I believe that self-compassion is key to impressing change without fear. When we're kind to ourselves and acknowledge that it's okay to feel scared or uncertain, we can start to build a sense of trust and confidence. We can remind ourselves that change is a natural part of life and that we've overcome challenges before. So, Aravind, to answer your question, I believe that it's absolutely possible to impress change without fear. By shifting our mindset, focusing on the present moment, building a support network, and practicing self-compassion, we can cultivate a sense of courage, resilience, and confidence that will serve us well in the face of change. What are your thoughts on this? How do you approach change in your own life?
Okay, so now explain me that. How does fear of unknown influence people's abilities to adapt to change? Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine, Aravind. Now, regarding your question, I think the fear of the unknown can have a profound impact on people's abilities to adapt to change. When we're faced with uncertainty or unknown circumstances, our natural response is often to feel anxious or fearful. This fear can cause us to become more rigid and inflexible, making it harder for us to adapt to new situations. Think about it. When we're in a state of fear, our minds tend to narrow and focus on the potential threats or dangers. We become more defensive and less open to new experiences, ideas, or perspectives. This can make it challenging for us to adjust to changing circumstances and can even lead to a kind of freeze response, where we become paralyzed by fear and unable to take action. Moreover, fear of the unknown can also lead to a lack of confidence and self-doubt. When we are uncertain about what the future holds, we might start to question our own abilities and feel less capable of handling the challenges that come our way. This can create a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, where our fears and doubts become a reality, and we struggle to adapt to changing circumstances. On the other hand, when we're able to approach the unknown with a sense of curiosity and openness, we're more likely to be adaptable and resilient. We're more willing to take risks, try new things, and learn from our experiences. I think this is where practices like mindfulness, self-reflection, and self-compassion can be really helpful. By cultivating a greater sense of awareness and understanding of our own thoughts and emotions, we can start to build more confidence and trust in our abilities to adapt to changing circumstances. So, Aravind, to answer your question, I believe that the fear of the unknown can indeed influence people's abilities to adapt to change. However, by acknowledging and working with our fears and cultivating a more open and curious mindset, we can become more resilient and adaptable in the face of uncertainty. What are your thoughts on this? How do you think fear of the unknown affects people's abilities to adapt to change?
Okay, so now explain me that can people change their mindset to embrace change more effectively?
I think people can absolutely change their mindset to embrace change more effectively, Aravind. In fact, our brains are wired to be adaptable and responsive to new experiences, so with practice and effort, anyone can develop a more open and embracing mindset. One way to start is by becoming more aware of our thoughts and emotions. When we're faced with change, it's natural to have initial reactions of fear, anxiety, or resistance. But by acknowledging and accepting these emotions, we can begin to shift our perspective. For example, when I'm feeling anxious about a change, I try to reframe my thinking by asking myself, what's the opportunity here? Or what can I learn from this experience? This simple mindset shift can help me approach the change with more curiosity and enthusiasm. Another strategy is to focus on the present moment, rather than getting caught up in worries about the future or regrets about the past. Mindfulness practices like meditation, deep breathing, or yoga can help calm our minds and bring us back to the present moment. It's also essential to build a support network of people who can offer encouragement, guidance, and reassurance. When we're surrounded by people who believe in us and our abilities, we're more likely to feel confident and motivated to take on new challenges. Self-compassion is also key. When we're kind and understanding with ourselves, we're more likely to be willing to take risks and step outside our comfort zones. We can remind ourselves that it's okay to make mistakes and that we can learn from them. Lastly, I think it's essential to practice self-reflection and self-awareness. By understanding our values, strengths, and motivations, we can identify what drives us and what holds us back. This self-awareness can help us develop a more growth-oriented mindset, where we see change as an opportunity for growth and development. I've seen this in my own life, Aravind. Growing up in New Jersey, I was always drawn to the arts, but I also had a passion for engineering. I remember feeling torn between these two seemingly disparate interests, but as I reflected on what truly motivated me, I realized that I wanted to combine art and engineering to create innovative solutions. This self-awareness helped me develop a more open and embracing mindset, and I've been able to pursue a career that aligns with my values and strengths. So, Aravind, to answer your question, I believe that people can indeed change their mindset to embrace change more effectively. By becoming more aware of our thoughts and emotions, focusing on the present moment, building a support network, practicing self-compassion, and cultivating self-awareness, we can develop a more adaptable and growth-oriented mindset. What are your thoughts on this?
Okay, so now explain me that how do past experience shape our approach to change?
What a great question, Aravind. I think our past experiences can have a profound impact on how we approach change. You see, our brains are wired to learn from our experiences, and we tend to create patterns and associations based on what we've encountered before. When we've had positive experiences with change in the past, we're more likely to approach new changes with confidence and optimism. We might think, hey, I've done this before and it turned out okay, so I can do it again. This can help us feel more resilient and adaptable, and we're more likely to see change as an opportunity for growth and development. On the other hand, if we've had negative experiences with change in the past, we might approach new changes with fear, anxiety, or resistance. We might think, oh no, this is going to be a disaster. I don't want to go through that again. This can make us more cautious and risk-averse, and we might be more likely to stick with what's familiar even if it's not working for us. I think this is why it's so important to reflect on our past experiences and identify any patterns or associations that might be holding us back. By acknowledging and reframing our past experiences, we can start to break free from any limitations or biases that might be influencing our approach to change. For example, I remember when I first moved to Florence, Italy, to study art and engineering. I was so excited to immerse myself in a new culture and learn from the masters, but I also felt a lot of anxiety and self-doubt. I had to navigate a new language, new customs, and a new way of life, all while trying to keep up with my studies. Looking back, I realized that my past experiences had prepared me for this challenge. I had always been fascinated by different cultures and had spent time traveling and studying abroad, so I had developed a sense of adaptability and resilience. However, I also had to overcome some fears and doubts that were holding me back. By reflecting on my past experiences and identifying what had worked for me in the past, I was able to approach this new challenge with more confidence and curiosity. I started to see change as an opportunity for growth and development, rather than as a source of fear or anxiety. So, Aravind, to answer your question, I believe that our past experiences can shape our approach to change by influencing our confidence, resilience, and adaptability. By reflecting on our past experiences and identifying any patterns or associations that might be holding us back, we can start to break free from any limitations or biases that might be influencing our approach to change. What are your thoughts on this?
Okay, thank you so much for answering me very well, and thanks to the audience for watching this interview. Inshallah, we will meet in the next episode of Inspiring Minds with another guest. Take care of yourself and